I watch MSNBC, CNN, probably more than I do. No, definitely more than I do Fox. I really don't watch Fox. I watch 2 shows on Fox. I just watch Tucker and Jesse Waters. I know the pulse of that side, so I don't have to watch it like I should, and I do the left. I watched a whole night of CNN coverage on the election. And I tweeted about it repeatedly. Of them calling all of these Republican candidates election deniers. So they'll say such and such is above Blake Masters in Arizona. Election denier, Blake Masters.
Incumbent Democrat Gretchen Whitmer currently leading conservative commentator Tudor Dixon, an election denier as well, 11% of the vote. And we just got an update. Incumbent Democrat Kathy Hochul running for her full first term in office. She currently leads considerably over Congressman from Long Island and election denier Lee Zeldin. Has a 287,000 vote advantage over Doug Mastriano. Remember, Mastriano's an election denier who tried to overturn the 2020 election results in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Josh Shapiro, the sitting attorney general, running for governor against a state legislator named Doug Mastriano that Boris just aptly described.
It's such a subtle thing that it slips past a lot of people, especially people on the left who don't understand what they're doing. They're making those candidates look crazy. But not once, and it's on video, not once did they call Stacey Abrams an election denier.
We're going to take a quick look at Georgia to start right now. Stacey Abrams has a lead over incumbent Republican Brian Kemp. Abrams leading by about 13,000 votes. A lopsided advantage, but keep in mind, only 1% of the vote in. And what would a key race alert slew be without the state of Georgia? Brian Kemp, the Republican incumbent, 305,000 votes ahead right now of Stacey Abrams, about 9 percentage points with 86% of the vote in. Dana.
Thank you so much, Boris. And we did just get word that Stacey Abrams called and conceded.
Not once. They actually referred to a couple times as
legendary vote mobilizer Stacey Abrams is ahead, 73,000 votes against incumbent Republican Brian Kemp.
and this is, again, CNN is supposedly cleaning up their biases. So what they have happening is they have these people sneaking this stuff in. And I'm not sure the powers that be watch the product as much as they should. I think that just, it got past them. How do you keep calling? And they didn't just do it once. All night, every Republican candidate that was either backed by Trump or supported his election challenges, lawful, legitimate election challenges, was called an election denier.
Josh Shapiro, he has nearly a 300,000 vote advantage over Doug Mastriano, one of the most extreme candidates you are going to see on the board tonight.
Near the end of the campaign said, if you elect me, no Republicans will ever lose again in Wisconsin, which brings the democracy question into play very early. But the governor's race is, again, always critical for state issues, all the more important because of threats to democracy and the Supreme Court sending abortion rights back to the states. They were trying to figure out, is he a Trump? Because then they were not going to vote for him. Or is he just taking the Trump endorsement, and when he gets to the Senate, he'd be a more moderate Republican? So that's one question. Then didn't vote for Trump the second time because they didn't like the chaos. They didn't like the tweets. They didn't like the noise. They didn't like being told to ingest bleach.
So when they say something like Blake Masterson or Masters, whatever his name is, and they put underneath his name, election denier, or the guy who's supposed to be just giving the data, serving up the data, that's his whole job, he'll say such and such election denier is down by 6 points. Like, wait, whoa, why'd you slip that in? What was the point of slipping that in there? Why would you do that?
Of projections and 3 victories for Democrats, beginning with history being made in Maryland. Wes Moore, who had never been elected to public office in his life, will become the first black governor of the state of Maryland as he defeats election denier Dan Cox. She becomes the first woman elected governor of Massachusetts and the first openly lesbian governor in the history of the United States as she defeats election denier Jeff Deal. This is a huge deal for Kemp. Remember, he drew Donald Trump's ire back in 2020 when he refused to find those 11,000 or so votes that Trump was looking for. Kemp, known for restricting abortion access in Georgia, for remaking the state's voting system, the electoral system there.
Maggie Hassan against former, I think, General Donald Bolduc.
Exactly, an election denier who then, right after he won his primary, tried to switch back and then went back again because the Republican base was getting mad at him.
Our first look at the Arizona governor's race with this key race alert. Katie Hobbs, the Secretary of State that helped certify the 2020 election results in Arizona. She's leading former TV anchor turned unrepentant election denier Kari Lake and Kathy Hochul, the incumbent Democrat, 647,000 votes in front of Lee Zeldin, who you may recall voted to object to certifying the election results in 2020 in the states of Arizona and Pennsylvania. Hochul holding on to a lead there.
Now, I made a video 2 videos ago that, I mean, every single prominent Democrat, every one of them, you name a Democrat, I put them on my video 2 videos ago. It's called, I think it's called Extreme MAGA Democrats. If not, it's called Extreme MAGA Republicans Debunking, something along those lines. Every single Democrat you've ever known since the year 2000, I made a video showing them denying elections. Every single one, even Barack Obama. Have you ever heard them call him an election denier? Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Stacey Abrams, who was on this ticket, Nancy Pelosi, all of them, the late, great John Lewis, civil rights activist, calling a man illegitimate. That's all okay because they're on the left. How is that possible? How can they sit there all freaking night, all night, calling all these Republican candidates election deniers, throwing that little jab in there, and it's obviously a negative connotation. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you look at them and say, oh God, they're not a serious candidate. They deny elections. The best part about my last, or 2 videos ago, is when I said, it may be the last video, not 2 videos ago. The best part about it is I had Joe Biden denying 2 elections. But there's more, because on this video, I'm going to do a montage of all the people talking about a candidate who ran on this ticket that CNN did not call an election denier. All of them, including, I believe, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, all prominent Democrats, Barack Obama, calling Stacey Abrams the rightful governor of Georgia. Not, oh, she was cheated. Not that they literally called her the governor of Georgia and said, oh, if they didn't cheat, Kamala Harris is another one. The great, great Kamala. I believe that Stacey Abrams, right guys, had she not been cheated, would be the governor of Georgia. And governors run states. And in this country, we have governors. She didn't do that. But even she called Stacey Abrams the rightful winner of the Georgia election for governor.
And despite the final tally and the inauguration and the situation we find ourselves in, I do have one very affirmative statement to make. We won.
Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia. Andrew Gillum is the governor of Florida.
I acknowledge that former Secretary of State Brian Kemp will be certified as the victor in the 2018 gubernatorial election. This is not a speech of concession.
If she'd had a fair election, she already would have won.
You refuse to concede
and say that you lost. Do you stand by that decision today?
Absolutely. The election was not fair. The process was not fair.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear.
I think that Stacey Abrams' election is being stolen from her.
You notably did not concede.
I did not.
Okay, you acknowledged that he won, but you did not concede.
Correct.
5 months later, do you still feel like your opponent won through voter suppression?
Yes. Georgia voters did not have their votes counted. They were not allowed to cast votes. They had their votes discarded.
She would be the governor of Georgia today had the governor of Georgia not disenfranchised 1.4 million Georgia voters before the election. That's what happened to Stacey Abrams. They took the votes away.
Was the election in Georgia statewide a free and fair election?
It was not a free and fair election.
Reminder, she wrote, Brian Kemp stole the gubernatorial election from Georgians and Stacey Abrams.
And it was not fair to those who filled out absentee ballots, and depending on the county you sent it to, it either was counted or not counted, assuming you received it in time. Brian Kemp oversaw for 8 years the systematic and systemic dismantling of our democracy, and that means there could not be free and fair elections in Georgia.
It certainly gave the appearance of unfairness, and I think there was unfairness. Stacey ran a great campaign. She probably won.
But will I say that this election was not tainted, was not a disinvestment and a disenfranchisement of thousands of voters? I will not say that.
Candidates, both black and white, lost their races because they have been deprived of the votes they otherwise would have gotten. And the clearest example is from next door in Georgia. Stacey Abrams should be governor, leading that state right now.
So you don't feel that you lost fair and square?
I'm not saying it's going to be legit. It's the increase in the prospect of being illegitimate is a direct proportion to us not being able to get these reforms passed.
Why didn't they call Stacey Abrams? CNN, I have a question for you. Why did you call all these candidates election deniers, but you didn't call Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, everyone who called Stacey Abrams the rightful governor of Georgia? Why didn't you refer to them as that? Why didn't it say under Stacey Abrams' name, election denier, like you guys did to the GOP candidates 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, whatever it was? Your bias is disgusting. And it's why somehow Kari Lake is going to pull this out. They tried shutting down polls again. They did this in Arizona, and that's not going to work. Apparently, I thought Arizona was going to lose. I said, you got what's coming to you. But it looks like Kari Lake's actually going to win and become the governor of Arizona, which we all know should have happened anyway. When I was in Phoenix, not one person didn't like her. She was a staple in that state for decades. Everybody knows who she is. Everybody knew they were lying on her. Everybody knew those attack ads weren't fair.
Well, the opposition is desperate, okay, guys? This is crazy. I mean, I'm watching the ads. I happen to turn the TV on today, and it's one attack ad. Are we all realizing these attack ads are a whole bunch of bunk? Okay, I thought so. I mean, they've been calling me every name in the book for 512 days. Not that I'm counting, but my staff told me we've been on the trail for 512 days, and they've been running attack ads. We've had more attack ads, I think, lobbed at us than any candidate. Maybe in the history of Arizona now. It's gotten that bad.
She's about to be the governor. So they didn't turn all the way blue. They're still purple. There's still some other stuff going on. We don't know what's going to happen. But CNN and MSNBC, your coverage of that election was disgusting, and it was biased. And the fact that it was biased can sway people's opinions of candidates. And I didn't watch all of their pre-election coverage. I watched certain shows on CNN. So I didn't get to watch all of the pre-election. I don't know. If they were doing that the whole time, how is that not meddling? How can you guys sit there and act like you're neutral, calling people, essentially, you're taking away their credibility and mocking the candidates by calling them election deniers. They're not serious. They're not for real. They're just, they're just They're just people who don't believe in our democracy. The threat to democracy. Now, there wasn't this big red wave. There was a little dot. There was a pinprick. But Democrats still lost. They still lost the House. They're still going to be down in the Senate. So, does that mean that the democracy is over? Are we about to see the end of our democracy? Is that what's going to happen? That should be what happens, according to Joe Biden and his speech the day before, 2 days before the election.
No democracy is at risk. But we also know this. It's within our power, each and every one of us, to preserve our democracy. And I believe we will.
The threat to democracy happened. They won. Now what? Is democracy over, people? I'm curious. I need to understand this because he said it was going to happen. You guys bought in. They still lost. They did better than they thought, but that's still a loss. My Bears play, we play the Eagles, and we lose by 10, but we thought we were going to lose by 21. Doesn't matter. We still lost. So if I made a declaration before the game, it should still hold. Hey, Joe Biden, is the democracy over? Is the country done? What's going to happen now? What's going to happen now?
Election yesterday. And it was a good day, I think, for democracy. And I think it was a good day for America. Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse. Our democracy has been tested in recent years, but with their votes, the American people have spoken and proven once again that democracy is who we are.
Pennsylvania, I'm not going to go into Fetterman because they're stuck with that one. They're stuck with him or his wife or whoever's going to be running, doing his job, because it sure ain't going to be him. But Pennsylvania voted in a dead guy. That's how tribal that state is. I will vote for a dead man because it's got a D next to it. They thought the D stood for Democrat. I'm just kidding. He was a Democrat, but they voted in a dead person. So that's what the right was up against in Pennsylvania. The rest is all on them. You run your campaign how you run your campaign. If you're not talking about what you did or what you're going to do and you lose, that's on you. That's on you. But worse, it's on the people who did the voting, because now they're stuck with a guy like Fetterman who has no idea what's going on around him. And they're stuck with a dead person who won a race for some congressional seat. I don't know if it was House or Senate. You're stuck with what you got. They voted in a dead guy.